Hello, I'm Semily Sherry of Triple Moon, and in this video today I wanted to focus on what I'm feeling is more and more important at this time, which is for each of us to hold an invitation to everyone around us, an invitation to the divine spark that exists in everyone, to see an alternative, rather than kind of pointing out where everyone's going wrong all the time or why the world is in such a mess. We need to do that, yes, but what's been really brought home to me recently, and I was pointed at a fantastic shamanic astrologer called Caroline Casey, who's a wonderful character, and there's some brilliant videos of her on YouTube. And she has this underlying message of playfulness, of doing that, of inviting people to into our view, to see things as we see them, and to say, hey, come and have a look at this, isn't it great? And it's so true that is where the power lies. So what I'm finding now is in my everyday life and in encounters in everywhere, what I'm very aware of is trying to appeal to the divine spark in the person that I'm relating to or in the group that I'm relating to, even if I know that they're not consciously connecting to that. And so we're essentially bringing the sacred in to everything that we do, but with a really playful, exciting energy that is far more appealing than kind of looking down your spiritual nose at someone and going, hey, you're getting it all wrong, what a mess you've made. It's an opening out into looking at a different way of being. So as I was thinking about making this video this morning, I suddenly remembered just a little exchange I'd had on Messenger with a lady who, we were part of a spiritual group together, and she was just talking about the fact that in order to make some money she'd set up this business, and she was kind of disrespecting it in a little way, or kind of going, oh well, it's not a very spiritual business, it's all to do with wine and importing wine. And I just kind of turned it round for her a little, and I messaged her back and I said, you know, originally the production of wine lay within the remit of the temple and the priests and priestesses, and they would produce wine in a very sacred way for use in ritual and in contacting the divine, in contacting the gods. That they were responsible for brewing beer and ale, and also for producing wine, and it was a very sacred act. And immediately that turned around completely the way she viewed what she was doing. And I saw the magic in that, and thinking about it today in view of how my mind has been kind of fermenting this playfulness, invitation kind of thing, I was thinking, wow, how we could if everybody had that view of alcohol, brewing, drinking, that would just transform the way the world worked. I mean, think of all the problems that alcohol brings to the world, but if it becomes sacred again, if it becomes part of a way of connecting the divine within each of us. So often alcohol is abused as a way of escaping reality, of a way of getting out of your life and your problems. What if instead it was seen as a doorway to the divine, to other realms of consciousness that can inform and inspire us in our everyday life? That was the original intention behind it. That was its original use. So, wow, we can do that with everything in our lives. And I've been conscious of it at the moment. As many of you may know if you follow my videos, I'm also a very keen amateur performing arts person. So at the moment I'm rehearsing a play which is all about the life and death of Ruth Ellis, who was the last woman in the UK to be hung, to be given the death penalty. And I'm aware that it's a very serious subject matter. It raises a lot of questions And it could be depressing. It could turn into, in terms of what I'm doing in the play, and in what the play is, the message the play is putting over to the audience, it could come across as really depressing, really kind of fist thumping. Look at what we've done, you know, we killed an innocent woman. And it could send the audience away with a feeling of depression and oh, we failed. So what I'm trying to bring as I'm performing is I'm opening out the invitation to look at people in a different way, because Ruth was basically hung because the circumstances of her life and what brought her to perform that terrible act of shooting someone. She was basically not a well person. She had been abused herself. She had been through some terrible pain. And that was completely ignored in the trial. And so what I'm trying to bring in this, as I'm rehearsing this play and the message I want to put across to the audience is never judge someone on appearances or by how they may appear to be acting. There's a story under there. Everyone has their own story, their own journey that they're going through. And if we could just choose to look at each other with compassion and understanding rather than immediately jump into judgment on acts alone or on surface appearance, we could change the world. And in fact, that's what the play does. It gives you a more full, rounded view than appeared in the press of Ruth and the circumstances that led up to her committing the murder that she did, which led to her being hung. And I'm also aware that this is a soul, this woman's soul may not be at rest, may be struggling because she was never understood. And so as a healer, I'm bringing that energy also into that performance, that I want the audience to go away with a feeling of compassion, of greater understanding, and that we can have done some healing with this performance of this play, rather than just left them with a feeling of, oh, some dreadful injustice was done and there's nothing we can do about it. So I just wanted to really emphasize that feeling of playfulness, of whatever situation you're in, and it can be any situation. If you're just aware that what you're trying to do is appeal with your vision to the divine spark in the group or the person that you're relating to open out their understanding and vision, to be greater, to connect with the divine. And just in doing that in every day, it could have a massive impact on the world. And it doesn't matter who you're relating to. So often we think, oh, well, this is it's a government department, or it's a business. It doesn't have a soul. It has no notion of the divine. That might be true. But how is that going to change by you kind of pointing the finger and saying that to them? You have no notion of the divine. Well, fair enough, you're telling them what they already know, but instead you need to open a door into another way of looking at things. And you can do that by being playful, by inviting in an exciting and a very open way of saying, hey, have you thought about it this way? What about looking at it with these eyes? What about seeing the potential over here? And often, it happens, it's the way mothers are with children. If your child is having a tantrum, you distract them by giving them something else that's exciting and interesting. And often the child will stop crying or stop acting out immediately. It's like, oh yeah. And we kind of need to be doing that with the world now. So as well as the protesting, or as Caroline Casey says, and I agree, you should call it protecting, not protesting, because then immediately you're moving away from duality and into something unifying. As well as that, as well as saying this is not okay, then you need to open the door and go, well, but how about this? Look at this. Isn't this wonderful? Isn't this amazing? And so I just want to encourage you to have that kind of attitude now. And it also raises the vibration generally, and we all need to be doing that in the world. There's so much fear around. We have Brexit happening over here in the UK. Everybody's kind of going, what is going on? How is this going to pan out? Economic disaster. I mean, there's so much fear. And instead, you know, we need people to be opening the door and going, well, we could do this. Here's an alternative. And, you know, and it looks good. It's opening the door onto a rosy future. So just to bear that in mind, that's how I'm going about my life, trying to do that more and more in all sorts of interactions, on the personal level, on the community level, on the global level. And let's see where that takes us. I'm sure it's going to help people enormously, because there's so much darkness and fear around at the moment. And we need to be showing a way to step more into the light. So that's my idea for today. It's lovely to speak to you again. And until the next time, take great care, and sending love and blessings.